What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and welcome back to today's tier list video, where today we're going to be looking at the wide receivers. Probably the hardest position group we will have to do in terms of numbers. Some teams have one, other teams have two. The only team not represented, I tried to find at least one from one team, as long as they met the parameters of, I think, I said over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns, was the Redskins. Unfortunately, the Redskins didn't have one of those, so sorry. Not sorry, I guess. But a lot of teams have two different types of players, and we're going to try to find our best in at least 5 tiers to rank them to the point that you guys aren't unbelievably salty, like you have been in some of these lists. I'm just saying, as looking from the sidelines here after I throw this video out, there has been a lot of controversy with these lists. So let's jump into it. And as always, I want to start with putting at least one guy in S and one guy in D, so you kind of get the parameters that I'm working with. So I will start with the best wide receiver of the National Football League in DeAndre Hopkins. He's quarterback proof, which I think is the #1 trait you can have for a wide receiver, regardless who has been at QB. Deshaun Watson, and then dating before Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins was an absolute monster. So he is going to go into S tier. And then to find a D tier, we'll put Zay Jones. Zay Jones from the Buffalo Bills just barely met the criteria to make this video. He's a nice weapon. I liked him at East Carolina, and hopefully he got his mind right. Doesn't want to jump out of windows, and can be a nice weapon for Josh Allen, but still get a little bit of a development going on. We will put the rookies here in D tier just because we don't know. So we have N'Keal Harry from the Patriots. We have Hollywood Brown of the Baltimore Ravens. I think these guys have some upside for sure, but until we actually see what is, you know, what they're going to be capable of on field, they're going to have to probably just go at D tier for now. So let's work our way. I like clearing out the bottom here first, and then we can do the rest. So we have Robert Woods. I'm going to take Robert Woods, and we're going to put him in C tier. I think he's from a very pass-happy offense, which is kind of weird to say, but also not. They move the ball around a lot. I think because of, it's weird to say they're a pass-happy offense because they do have Todd Gurley, puts up huge numbers, but it is also kind of a pass-happy offense. I think Robert Woods is nice. He's a guy that, will always get around that 1,000-yard mark. But is he really a game changer? Is he really a game breaker? I don't think. But he's a nice wide receiver, and I feel like C tier is a fair spot for him. We have Mike Williams of the Chargers. I think Williams kind of had a little bit of a breakout year, especially down the backstretch of last season for the Chargers. So going forward into the 2019-2020 season, I'm expecting big things for him. I think he will be a 1,000-yard receiver. We have Tyreek Hill. Oh, boy. Now, Tyreek Hill is literally a piece of human garbage. I hope he never plays another down in the National Football League. But until a suspension or a ban is imposed, I'm going to have to put him at A tier. He's uncoverable. If there's a certain design play, if he just runs fast, if you don't double team him, he's just going to run by you. There's no one on the defensive side that can match his speed. And when you have that ability to just open a game and break it open on any given play, I got to at least put you in A tier. And he's actually developed a little bit as a route runner. He has solid hands. He's a really good wide receiver. Just an absolute piece of garbage of a human being. We have Michael Thomas from the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to put him in S tier. I debated. I think he's fringe A to S, kind of in the same regards as Robert Woods. Comes from an offense that they throw the ball around a lot, so he's always going to have good stats with Drew Brees throwing it to him, with Sean Payton calling the plays, but he makes the most of opportunities. I think he has like one of the best drop rates in the National Football League. Powerful wide receiver. Now, I do think a little bit of a loser, a little bit of a I don't want to say lose, you know what I'm saying though? Not really a loser, but he's kind of cringy, I think, on social media. Doesn't nearly have as good of a chirp game as some of the other wide receivers, even though he is very vocal. But he's dominant. He's a dominant playmaker, and young, got his best football ahead of him. I think he's a tweener between A and S. But I think for the sake of this video, I will put him in S tier, even though I don't think he's even in the. It's S tier for this video, but if there was another tier, I don't really think or believe Michael Thomas is on DeAndre Hopkins level, but he's in the realm. We have Adam Thielen from the Vikings. I'll put Thielen in A tier. I think he's one of the best route runners, if not the best route runner in the National Football League. He always gets separation, clutch playmaker, great hands, good athlete. He's in my opinion, easily the best wide receiver on the Minnesota Vikings, and we have another Vikings wide receiver that we will talk about in just a little bit. But I think Thielen is, I don't know if he's still underrated or not, but he's a monster. He broke the record last year for most consecutive 100-yard receiving games. He's a monster. He's a really good wide receiver, and I don't think personally gets enough credit. We got Golden Tate. I'm going to put Golden Tate D tier. Maybe he does a little bit salty because he kind of sucked for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that was a bit of Golden Tate, maybe a little bit more of the Eagles play calling, but he's a guy he's a solid wide receiver. Doesn't offer much more at this point in his career. If this was made 2 years ago, he'd be regarded as maybe one of the best slots, and he'd be C or B. Now he's just one of the good slots in the National Football League, in my opinion. I'll have to put him at D tier. Same go, we got Kenny Stills here, kind of one-dimensional, deep threat for the Miami Dolphins. Can still have a couple big games. He's just really sporadic. He'll have like 2 games where he gets 2 catches, 20 yards, and then he'll have another game where he gets 5 for 175 and 2 touchdowns. So because he's a little one-dimensional, we'll have to put him here in D tier. So that's going into the top part of the list. Let's get back. We have Antonio Brown. AB's going S tier. And while it seems like over the last 2 years he's just grown into the biggest asshole, like a really, really prima donna diva type wide receiver, you can't ignore the on-field product. He's a mismatched nightmare, inside, outside, clutch, comes up in the clutch as long as he's willing to play for your team. I think if I'm a Raiders fan, I'm very optimistic that a guy like him, and you throw in a Tyrell Williams, a Hunter Renfrow to Clemson in the slot, you know, now you have those weapons for Derek Carr to see if he can get back to that MVP form that he had a couple years ago. And it's not so much our best offensive weapon is a good tight end, but your tight end in Jared Cook was your best weapon last year. Now it's a big change, big opportunity for everything on that Raiders offense to finally start clicking. AB, S tier. We have Devontae Adams. I'm going to put Devontae Adams in A tier. This could be a little bit controversial. I know Green Bay Packer fans are very, very defensive of Devontae Adams and would put him in S tier. He's a touchdown machine, Aaron Rodgers' best threat. I just think, you know, I don't know. For me, he's a really good wide receiver. I just don't think he's the creme de la creme just yet. I just feel like he doesn't take games over. It's one of those things where he's a really good player. He gets open. He's a touchdown machine, but he doesn't necessarily, like, he's not uncoverable. He's not an elite athlete. You know, he doesn't have that Tyreek speed. He's like good at everything, not elite at really anything. Maybe you could say his red zone efficiency is up there, but he's still a really good wide receiver. A tier for me. Hot, you know, he's a tweener. I would say he's a tweener between A and S. We have Nelson Aguilar. I'll put him D tier. Kind of inconsistent, but given the fact that he's even incorporated on this list because he's had a pretty good back-to-back season for the Philadelphia Eagles from where he was as an unbelievable bust from USC during the Chip Kelly era, it's great for him to even make this list. And while he's getting paid almost $10 million for my Philadelphia Eagles, which is annoying, still a very nice playmaker and a great part of our wide receiver core. Next up, we got Keenan Allen. I'm going to put Keenan Allen A tier. Now that he's able to get some running games, no injuries to speak of, knock on wood, because I usually try to draft him in fantasy football. He's one of the best big slots in the National Football League. Catches everything thrown his way. Chain mover, clutch. Yeah, A tier. He's a low A tier though, I would say. If you had to kind of talk about the guys that are already in this list. We have Alshon Jeffrey. I'm going to put Alshon B tier. I think for the fact that he hasn't broke 1,000 yards yet with the Philadelphia Eagles, and even though he's been a touchdown machine and a huge playmaker, one of the best jump ball wide receivers in the league. He had that drop against the Saints, and I know I actually got kind of defensive. That may be the first time I've been defensive of any player on my team because we don't win the Super Bowl without Alshon Jeffrey. His playoff run, the year that we won the Super Bowl, was as dominant as any wide receiver in the playoffs for the last decade. And I say that easily. No bias. You just watch the tape. He was immense. Absolutely immense. So a little bit of that is his playoff form from last year, kind of still soaking in, but I think Alshon is definitely a fringe top 10 wide receiver. And on his given day, if he's on point, top 10. I think with a healthy Carson Wentz, I think that rapport is going to get built up a little bit more. And it's not just going to be Wentz dinking, dunking it to Zach Ertz every play. I think Alshon will have a chance to maybe get up into this A tier. But for right now, very solid B tier wide receiver. We got Robbie Anderson from the Jets, very one-dimensional deep threat. I'll put him in D tier. Tyler Boyd from the Bengals had a little bit of a breakout season last year, got 1,000 yards, but I hesitant to think what would happen if AJ Green was there for a full year. Would his stats look exactly the same? I'm not going to necessarily, I don't really want to hold that against him, but I think he's a C tier that if he can put up 1,000+ yards and still make plays like he did, along with AJ Green for the Cincinnati Bengals, Zach Taylor's going to be a very, very happy head coach, and he could maybe propel himself up into being a tweener between C and B. But for right now, C tier. We have Brandon Cooks from the Rams. I'll put Brandon Cooks at B tier. Kind of one-dimensional as a deep threat. I don't want to say he's QB proof like DeAndre Hopkins because he has had 1,000-yard seasons for 3 different teams: the Rams, the Patriots, and the Saints. But then you kind of got to look at the QBs that he was throwing to him. He's scheme proof as long as your scheme requires a wide receiver to be a good deep threat. But he has had a level of consistency that has to be respected, and we'll put him at B tier. We have Amari Cooper. Now, I was going to put Cooper here in C tier, then I know a lot of people would just bitch about that because he was on point down the stretch for the Dallas Cowboys. So, while he has had a lot of inconsistencies in his career, I'm going to kind of judge it more so about how he finished last year. So I'm putting him in B tier. Well, I think he's a tweener between C and B. If he can put everything else behind him and just, he's going to be that player that we saw down the stretch for the Dallas Cowboys that had a great rapport with Dak Prescott. I definitely think it is fair to put him here in B tier. But I need to see the level of consistency that he hasn't really had throughout his career for him to remain B tier. And there's a chance come week 8, if we revisit this halfway through next season, could knock himself back into C tier. But for right now, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, not be a biased Eagle fan. I'll put Amari Cooper there in B tier. We got Corey Davis here. I'm gonna put Corey Davis actually in C tier. I'm higher on him than most. He was my favorite wide receiver coming to Western Michigan 2 years ago. And well, I think if he was in a better offense, he'd have better stats. Obviously, that's obvious. That's an obvious thing to say. But I think in terms of pure talent, his talent is off the charts. And I think if they can find some sort of stability to that attack for the Tennessee Titans, he's a guy that can get 1,300 yards, I believe. But unfortunately, they don't throw the ball particularly well with Marcus Mariota being very inconsistent. They're a run-first offense, but in terms of talent, I think he's a guy that's between D and C, and I'm kind of more so gambling on his upside from what I've seen. I'm going to put him in C tier. Maybe that's a little bit controversial, but I'm weighing on the side of his talent. We have D.D. Westbrook from the Jags. Put him at D tier. I think he'd probably be the best threat, best weapon for Nick Foles there in Jacksonville. It is what it is. He's solid. We got Stephon Diggs. I'm going to put Diggs B tier. Good route runner, good hands. I don't think he's as good as Adam Thielen. I don't know if that's a controversial take, but he's still a really nice wide receiver. One of the best 1-2 punches. What's a better 1-2 punch in the National Football League than Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs? Off the top of my head, can't really think of one. There might be a couple that you could throw up in there, but I think if you're going for best tandem, best duo, tandem's 3, best duo, probably Thielen and Diggs for me, just right now, off the top of my head. We have DJ Moore, developing wide receiver, nice little weapon for the Panthers, but still has to take another big step this upcoming season. We got Deshaun Jackson. I'll put D-Jack C tier, still one of the best deep threats in the National Football League. And puts up a little bit better numbers than say, like a guy like Kenny Stills, Robbie Anderson, who are deep threats that we kept there in D tier. And I can't wait to see him try to capitalize and utilize the cannon of an arm that Carson Wentz has. We have Julian Edelman. I'm going to put Julian Edelman here into B tier for my money. Is he the best slot wide receiver in the National Football League? That could be an open debate. But I think when you had to throw in how well he plays every single time they get into the playoffs, every single game of the playoffs, be it the Super Bowl, the championship, the divisional round, they never played the wild card. You got to weigh that. You got to weigh that for just how good he is. The fact that he can elevate and take his game to another level in the playoffs, he got to go B tier for me. Mike Evans going S tier. I think he's one of the most underrated elite wide receivers. No one else. I don't think if anyone else does this list, they're gonna put Mike Evans in S tier. I think he's that damn good. Maybe I'm a little bit biased. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in the league, but he's just an absolute safety net. He's the safety net that you usually get from a tight end, except he's a wide receiver. Just throw it up, he will come down with it, and he's a big time playmaker. I think if he was in a bigger market, he would be regarded more so universally as an S tier wide receiver, and has definitely grown to become a consistent wide receiver. Had some drop issues his rookie year, sophomore year, but now I think he's one of the most complete wide receivers in the National Football League. We got Larry Fitzgerald. I'm going to put Larry in the B tier. More so because 2 years ago he was on a bad team and he led the league in receptions or something like that. He was like top 3 or top 4 or something like that. And then last year he was on a bad offense and he started to regress just a little, showed his age just a little bit. Still a monster, still a legend, in my opinion, outside of Tom Brady. Since I've been watching football, might be the most clutch wide receiver in the playoffs that I've seen. But given where he is at this point in his career, I think he's B tier. I think that's pretty fair. We have Chris Godwin from the Bucks, D tier. Might be able to break out next year with no more Deshaun Jackson. We got Kenny Galladay from the Lions, D tier with upside. I think he broke 1,000 yards last season. I think a lot of that was because Marvin Jones and Golden Tate were on the field for a whole lot of time, so he was the number one option. If he can do that, put another 1,000-yard season with Marvin Jones playing a full game, might be able to put him up to C. But for right now, I'm going to keep him at D. We got Josh Gordon. I'm going to put Josh Gordon at C tier. Had decent production last year with the Patriots. I think if we're going this on pure talent, Josh Gordon might be S tier. I think in terms of just athletic ability and talent, the wide receiver position, he's almost as good as anyone in the National Football League. But the whole availability off the field things has to weigh into these rankings. And for that, he has to go C tier. We have AJ Green. I'm going to put him in A tier. Just the last 2 seasons, injuries have been catching up with him a little bit. In terms of talent, I think he's S tier. But your availability needs to kind of way into these rankings, and I want to see him play a full 16 games. We have T.Y. Hilton. I'll put T.Y. B tier. This could be maybe a little bit controversial. I still think he's a deep threat that's becoming a little bit better of a route runner intermediate as he's getting up there in age a little bit. But he's a tweener between B and A. But I'll keep him at B. Same goes to Juju Smith-Schuster. I know that this could be a hot take. I know he's a popular player. He likes Fortnite Ninja and all that stuff. But I want to see what he can do when he's the guy. No more Antonio Brown helping him out. He is going to be the guy. How is he going to be able to respond? He's going to be able to put up the same type of numbers that he was able to last season. If we do this, say week 8, we do a nice little revisal. Is that a word? Revision? We'll go with revision. Revisal. Cool. We do a revision through 8 weeks. Maybe he'll be A tier. But for right now, he's a tweener between B and A. And because I'm kind of holding the AB against him until proven otherwise, he's going B tier. We got Julio Jones, S tier. He's uncoverable, and while his touchdown numbers might be really inconsistent, he's as good as any wide receiver in the league. Cooper Kupp, D tier. Nice slot wide receiver option on a very favorable offense. We have Jarvis Landry. I'll put Juice B tier. Really solid slot wide receiver. One of the better slot wide receivers. Probably top 5 easy slot receiver in the league. Gets a lot of receptions. That's something. We have Tyler Lockett. I'm going to put him C tier for now. Kind of in the same regards as Juju with no more Doug Baldwin. I think given what I saw last year, if we were doing this 8 weeks halfway through the upcoming season, I think Baldwin might be able to get himself up into B tier for my rankings. But I want to see what he can do when he is the guy in that Seattle Seahawks offense. Like, is he going to be the guy, or is he going to be that guy that kind of stays at the level where he's been at, and maybe someone like DK Metcalf is going to surprise a bunch of people? So I want to see how things play out on that Seahawks offense, but he definitely has the potential to get up into B tier. We have Odell, who I'm going to put in A, kind of similar to AJ Green. In terms of talent, now that he's not in the conference, I can be a little bit less biased. In terms of talent, probably S tier. But, the last 2 years, he's been banged up, struggling, able to stay healthy, getting a full 16 games on the field. So until he gets that part of his game back, he's going to be a high tier, A-level guy. Calvin Ridley will go D tier, as will Allen Robinson. I think Calvin Ridley has a big help on his offense when teams are just double teaming Julio Jones. Still a great playmaker, had good production last year, but that's always going to be something, an asterisk next to his stats. Allen Robinson coming over from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought he'd have a bigger year last year. I thought he was actually one of the more disappointing free agency signings just because he didn't really go off in the Chicago Bears Matt Nagy offense as much as I expected, but still a talented wide receiver. We have Emmanuel Sanders. I'm going to put Emmanuel Sanders. He's a tweener between C and B. I'm going to put him C for now, but the fact that there hasn't been great quarterback play in Denver and he's been able to put up pretty good numbers, he could very well. He's a tweener. But I don't know if I have enough to say that over the last 2 seasons, for example, of using that as a scope, he's good enough to be along the lines of these other guys in B tier. But he's a tweener between B and C. But for the time being, I will put him in C. But he hasn't had a lot of help from quarterback play. And then we got Sterling Shepard to finish it out. I'll put him D tier. Just a really good, consistent slot wide receiver. And I think that if we come back week 8, if you'll say that for the Giants. And now with him, hypothetically being the guy, it's going to be interesting to see how they roll out both Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard next season. I think Sterling Shepard could go into C. He's a productive wide receiver, but until I can see him take that next step in his game, he's just a really nice option for the Giants, regardless of being higher tier on my list. So there you go, guys. Those are my tier rankings for wide receivers in the National Football League. I'm sure there's going to be lots of healthy discussion in the comment section below about how I rank these guys. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If you have any other suggestions that aren't positional type videos for tier lists, let me know in the comment section below. I'm sure I can get through it in these next month or two where it's getting the down period between football and Madden until all the new stuff starts. If it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed it. Until next time, it's C4 saying peace